Go ahead and find your seat. Get your Bibles out. We're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 6 this morning. Matthew chapter 6, and we're still in the FOMO series. Somebody say FOMO. Tell me like FOMO. Okay, but FOMO, it can really mean one or two things. It could mean, and so we've been kind of trying to find a balance in the swing of things as we get ready to end out this year. But I'm not just as excited. I'm excited about ending this year, but I'm even more excited about starting the new year. And so FOMO, as many of you probably already know, means the fear of missing out. And I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but I know that studies show that because of the advances in technology, sometimes we can feel that we're missing out because of what we see on social media. We see everybody taking this nice vacation to like New York or Colorado or going, somewhere nice to go jet ski or go to, to go to Tennessee. And so we can look at all these people on social media and we're like, oh man, how come I never get to go there? Where did they get that money from? They did something to get that money. And so there's always this idea that we're missing out because we see everybody else having fun. We see everybody else, at the party or doing something, and then you feel like, man, what about me? I'm missing out on all the fun, and I think that part of that is because we've fallen into the enemy's trap to believing that God only wants everybody else to have fun, but He don't want you to have fun, right? Like you got to work 24/7. You got to work overtime just to make ends meet. And now that we're approaching Christmas, some of y'all are thinking like, what else can I buy my child to make them happy? Like honestly, some of y'all are thinking like, what in the world can I buy my son or my daughter? What can I purchase for my wife or my husband to make them love me? So that they understand how much I love them. And I'm here to tell you that there is nothing that you could ever purchase that would tell them how much you really love them. And so if we can get that thought through our mind and get it into our hearts, then I believe that you'll be in the safe zone. So here's what I mean by that is like I understand my wife very well. One of her love gifts or love languages is receiving gifts. I don't have that love language, so it's hard for me to kind of show her that you know what I mean, like to speak that language, because I'm a frugal person. So if you look, I don't know if you understand what the word frugal means. My wife likes to think, as some of these women in the church like to think, that it means cheap. I like to think of it as just using good wisdom and sound judgment. So, and the reason I say that is because I know that there's some things that I just don't think we really need. You know what I mean? It's like I just feel like we don't really need certain things, and so, but my wife, like she doesn't like expensive stuff. She likes like the small stuff on sale at Target. She likes the sales rack. And so I finally got, like she wanted a pair of shoes. And so one year I tried to buy her a pair of shoes and that didn't work out because the first thing she told, like she didn't even look impressed, but I tried. Like I really tried it. And gentlemen, I'm going to tell you just one thing to help you out. Unless you know what shoe to get your girl, don't buy her shoes. Just buy her the gift certificate to the store so that way your feelings ain't shot and broken. Okay? So I remember getting her a pair of shoes and she thought like she was trying to be gracious and trying to break it down to me. She finally came out and told me, those are ugly. And I thought like they were nice. Like, they were. I spent a little money on them. And so, I recall that. I was like, man, my heart was broken a little bit. But then I realized like she wanted her own thing. And so just a couple months ago, I realized that she kept saying, you got shoes. I was like, I got a pair of $45 boots from Target. It's like people were telling me they're nice, but I didn't know that, And so somebody gifted me a pair of Air Force, what was it? Air Force 2s. Like I've never owned a pair. And they like when you find a shoe that fits your foot, you think they're made just for you. And so now I'm putting them back in the box when I go home. Like I'm one of those people. I'll be honest with y'all. I ain't even gonna play. I still got that kid-like mentality when it comes to certain things because I know that I want certain things to have longevity. Because I've never owned a pair, and I probably won't own another pair until they get gifted to me again. So I figured I'm just gonna wear them on Sundays. I'm not gonna wear them out. I'm not gonna wear them to go out anywhere. I'm just gonna wear them on Sundays to preaching because I thought they looked pretty nice. So I was like, okay. My wife kept saying, "Hey, I need to get some shoes," and so we go to Champs in Coconut Point Mall. She finds these shoes online. They're all white. And I thought like they were the nicest things, but come to find out they didn't have her size, right? And then so we at the store, they're like, hey, maybe we can get them in the youth size. I was like, even better. Right? I was like, my wife is being frugal. She ain't being cheap, y'all. She being wise. She getting my mentality. Like, that's what, when the Bible talks about, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother, become one, and they shall be joined together in the two, like she's becoming one with me. I was like, yes, she's getting my mind, right? And so they end up coming in, and she doesn't like the way they fit. I'm like, oh, man, dang. Like, so what are we going to do? She goes, oh, we got to go back to the store. I was like, all right. So we go back to the same store in Coconut Point, and so she ends up finding this other shoe online, and end up finding out that when we get there, they don't have her size, but they got the youth size. So she ends up, but we had to wait 5 days to get them in the mail. So she tries those on, and those were $10 more than the last pair, right? So we're like pushing around $65 plus taxes. We're about $72, right? So I just did some quick math in my mind while I'm just there. So she ends up getting these pair, and then she puts them on. She's like, I don't like them. I was like, oh, you liked them when you saw them online, right? And so this whole time I'm thinking like, can I buy me a pair of shoes? I started thinking like that, like I got, I just wanted a pair of shoes now. So she ends up sending those back. And I said, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of going shopping. Because I didn't like going back to the store. So I was like, we ain't going back to Coconut Point. We going to the mall. And so when you get married and you live with the frugal mentality, like going to the mall is like an amusement park for us, right? Because we only go there like once or twice a year. And so when I hear people talking about, oh, have you been to the mall? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I probably never been to that store, right? And so we go into the Champs at the mall, and we're looking around. She can't find anything. And this is how my wife's mind works, though, because she has this, again, frugal mentality. She doesn't like to spend a whole lot of money. And I looked at these pair of shoes for women. They were some nice, nice Nikes. And I said, what about these? She goes, no. I was like, man, we ain't never going to find this girl nothing. And so I said, you know what? Daddy got to stop being cheap, right? So I went from spending like $55 with the first shoe to spending like $72 with the second shoe. I was like, we got to break the bank now. We got to break the. So we ended up buying her a pair of $120 shoes. I said, girl, I'm going to clean those specifically for you and I do. I clean them for her. She ain't got to clean them. But I just I realize that sometimes, I understand that sometimes we got to spend certain amounts of money because you get what you pay for. But at the same time, as we get ready for Christmas, like some of us are thinking about what we're going to buy our kids. Some of us are thinking, well, I'm going to buy my boyfriend or my girlfriend. Well, some of y'all are thinking, what am I going to buy my parents? I'm like, if you ain't got it, don't spend it. So guess what me and my family did? Me and my wife and my 3 kids, I got them up 2 weeks ago, and I said, hey, we're going to Bass Pro Shop, right? We got up at about 9 o'clock. We left at about 9:30. We got to Gulf Coast Town Center at about 10:30. And we had to take some stuff back to JCPenney, and we went to the other stores. And I said, baby, we're going to Bass Pro Shop for 2 reasons. First reason was because I wanted to get there early enough to take a picture with Santa, right? And the second reason is because they have these honey roasted or cinnamon roasted pecans. And I always get me 2 bags every time I go to Bass Pro Shop. So I figured I'm the only one working right now because we just had a baby. So I said, guess what everybody's going to get from us? I said, it's going to be specialized just for everybody. So we took a picture with Santa. Everybody took, you know what I mean? Like the kids took a picture with Santa, and they had this nice little promo deal that it's a free, like you get this free personalized picture, like little story that you can email to all your family members. So I figured, I'm the only one working. We're saving money. We're trying to be frugal. We're trying to be smart, right? And I don't need my family to think that I love this person more than I love that person. So I figured, you know what? Let me kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I love my family so much, they're all going to get the same thing from me this year. I love y'all so much, right? And guess what that was? It's a free personalized picture from Santa's shop, the North Pole, and my kids are smiling, and my baby's looking the opposite way, but that don't matter. Just know that they're all in the picture. See, God is good like that, right? God knew I had a need this year. He did. And some of y'all think, man, and I got some family in here already thinking I'm cheap. And you know what? Check this out. If y'all ain't got an email, I'll create one for you. If you. But see, sometimes we can feel like we can have this fear of missing out. Like maybe my kid is going to miss out if I don't get them a pair of Jordans this year. I grew up on like the starter package. I don't know if y'all know what that is. And like there's this new thing coming out that y'all are paying excessive amount of money, Champion. That we're paying excessive amount of money on. I'm like, back in the day, that stuff was like in Walmart. It was cheap. I went to Champs just the other day. There was this nice sweater. That thing cost $100. I said, nope, the devil is a lie. You might get the young generation, but you ain't getting me. Oh, no. I want to clue you into 4 principles, though, for this Christmas season. Maybe for the rest of your life, I want to clue you in. If you're taking notes, the message of my title is You Can Do Better. You can do better. But the only way you can do better is if you become better. You can't do something or give something that you currently do not have. So in order for me to do better, I myself must become better. I have to improve on certain way of living. For example, if I were to write you a check for $100, but my bank account does not carry $100 in it, then I'm giving you something that I really don't have. Am I right? And when that check bounces and you didn't collect your $100, you're frustrated at me, but then I'm frustrated at myself. Now I got to go to another bank and open up another bank account because I ain't trying to pay back the overdraft fees that or the cancellation for the check. And so now we're struggling. I want to teach you a principle, and so kind of my subtitle is Leadership is Stewardship. Leadership is stewardship. See, stewardship is just how faithful you are. It is you managing what God has entrusted to you. How faithful are you with what God has entrusted to you? I know some of y'all work endless hours. I know some of you work from the break of dawn. Some of y'all wake up super early to go to work, and then you come back It was nighttime when you went to work, and it was nighttime when you got back home. I understand that. And I understand how hard it is. And I understand that many of you feel like well, not that you feel like it, but you have to provide for your family. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they said, Pastor, you know what? I have to work a lot of overtime to make sure that my family has gifts. I was like, what? It's like, is that what we've kind of, is that what Christmas has become now? Is a time where all these businesses and companies are now marketing to you everywhere that you look, on your Apple Watch, on your iPhone, on your computer, everywhere you go, they are marketing you, and they are selling to you everything that you need to have, that you must have in order for you to enjoy Christmas this year. And if you don't, you're going to miss out, and then you're going to feel depressed, and then you're going to deal with anxiety. And some of you have not even bought any gifts, and you're already dealing with anxiety and stress. And I told my wife this year, guess what? We're only going to buy our kids 3 gifts. 3 gifts. We're going to buy them 3 gifts. And you know what the beauty about that is that many people that I already know have already blessed us, that I have not even spent one dime to bless my kids. And I said, you know what? I ain't got to pay. God done blessed me. He done blessed my Christmas tree. Yeah, I promise you. It's because it's the favor of God. I don't need to go buy them the latest software. I don't need to go buy them a PS4. I know that they want it. Daddy wants to buy it for them, but Daddy ain't going to buy it for them in this season. You know, I figure one day they're going to be 15, 16, 17 years old. Maybe that time they can buy it for themselves and get a job, right? Again, I'm not being cheap. I'm just being frugal. I'm using good judgment. But leadership is stewardship. My point number 1 is ownership. Ownership. Psalm 24 verse 1 says this. It says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Everything belongs to the Lord. See, it's not just the stuff that you buy. It's not just the stuff that you own. God owns you too. Everything in it, you belong to God. See, in the beginning of Genesis, God creates everything and puts Adam in the garden to work it and to take care of it. It is clear that man was created to work, and that work is the stewardship of all the creation that God has given him. Even your work, even those of you who wake up early in the morning, when you go to work, that is you stewarding what God has entrusted to you. Again, it's not just the stuff you buy, but it's who you are at work. It's who you are as a man or as a woman, as a son or a daughter, as a husband or as a wife. It's how well you steward or how well you manage what has been entrusted to you. God owns everything. We are simply managers or administrators acting on His behalf. That's all we are. Is just managers acting on His behalf. So God says, guess what? I'm going to create all this right here, and I'm going to put some people over certain things. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you that. Because I can only give you what I know you can handle. See, God only gives you what He knows you can handle. God will not give you more than what you can handle because He don't want to see you buckle. And some of you buckle, and God really thought that before He gave it to you that you could handle it. You get what I'm saying? So why is it that we end up running away? We end up giving up? Why is it that we end up struggling with the very thing that God says you can handle this, and we say, and we feel like, no, I can't, God. No, I can't, because you haven't stretched yourself far enough to be able to work through the process. See, some of us we see all we see sometimes. And I was thinking about this. When somebody recently just blessed, like I said this a couple weeks ago, someone recently gifted me with a pair of Air Force 2 shoes. I'm like, those things, I'm going to talk about them for the next year, y'all, so just get ready. They're going to be sermon illustration, okay? So I remember looking them up online, and those things were $160. I've never paid more than $130 for a pair of shoes. Never. Never. And I probably never, ever will. Right? And my wife asked me, what is it? What shoes do you want? She just came out of nowhere and asked me, what shoes do you want? I was like, should it be the humble Rick or like the genuine, authentic answer? You give her which answer should I give her? Because I don't want her to go out and spend money, and I know she probably wouldn't, not get us in a predicament where we couldn't afford something. But I was kind of skeptical, but I said, I'm going to just walk by faith on this one. I sure did. I walked by faith, and I showed her, I sent her a picture, and I put a big circle around it with some arrows. These, right? And so a couple weeks later, actually that same night, it was actually Halloween night when she asked me that, and I asked her, I said, why did you want to know? She goes, I'm just curious. I was like, no, you ain't. Why'd you want to know? And so it was actually a week later that I showed up here at church, and it was a few individuals who had gifted me a pair of shoes, and I looked at them. I was like, wow. I was like, those are nice, but I realized I'd never pay for. I would never pay for them, and I figured, how good is God? Just like how gracious is God? I just began to think of that in my mind. I was just, God, thank you. And so I was just thinking about the other day when I received some of these gifts for my children. I was like, when are people going to start blessing me? These Air Force Ones were nice, or Air Force Twos were nice. People going to start blessing me. My tree ain't filled up with my name on it, right? Not yet, right? But I just seen all these. I seen all these people, reaching out to us and say, hey, Pastor, we got you this for Noah. We got this, and then on Friday we were blessed with some more gifts by another family, and I began to think, and I really pondered about this. This is how my mind works. Will my kids think that I don't love them? Again, this is me. If daddy and mommy don't buy them a gift at all, would it really matter to them if I don't buy them a gift at all because somebody else has already supplied the blessing for my kids? I was like, oh, Lord, thank you. I was like, and so I'm struggling within. Some of y'all are like, oh, are you not going to buy your kids any gifts? Y'all, they have Christmas year-round with us, okay? They do. Y'all already know. I mean, the food on the table. That shampoo that I bought for them, it don't come free, y'all. Okay? The haircuts that I got to give them, I'm glad I ain't got to pay for a haircut, but now I got to invest money in them. See, God owns everything. And again, we are simply managers or administrators acting on His behalf. Stewardship is the commitment of one's self and possessions to God's service, recognizing that we do not have the right of control over the property or even ourselves. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's a difference between God owning it and you managing it. There's a big difference between God being the ultimate authority and you just acting out on His business and how you handle business. Because you got to understand, every one of you are making business transactions in the kingdom of God daily when you wake up. Literally from the moment you wake up, some of you are going right into the presence of God. Some of you automatically assume, I got to pray for my children. I got to pray for my wife. I got to pray over this day because I know that the enemy is trying to come against what God has in store. And so you're making a transaction every time you wake up. Some of you go right into that place, and some of you go right to the kitchen to make you some coffee, and you go right just to get ready, and you leave, and you go right to work. And some of y'all we forget that God has entrusted us to being good stewards of our families. See, my son just recently, I don't know where he got this habit. I don't know what happened, but he has been dealing with having bad dreams lately. Bad dreams. And he is afraid to go into any room that has a light turned off. At night or even in the day. He's afraid to go. And this is my 5-year-old son. He's afraid to go into any room. I don't know if you parents have ever dealt with this, but now he's afraid. I don't know where he saw a bat But he saw, he keeps saying, there's a bat, there's a bat. I was like, there ain't no bats, right? I'm thinking in my mind, I was like, there's no bats. So now it's gotten to the point where he wants me to go to sleep with him at night. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to sleep with him. I'm going to fall asleep, wait for him to fall asleep. Then I'm going to get up and go to my bed. And I realized that he's gotten comfortable to this little schedule of his, right? Because now every night he's asking me to fall asleep with him. But then as soon as I wake up or as soon as I get out of the bed, here he comes 2 or 3 minutes later, opening the door. It's like clockwork. And so I said, you know what? I woke up. And I went to my wife and I said, you know what? God has made us stewards of our family. And the enemy is trying to come in. The enemy is trying to come in and trying to interfere with what God has entrusted us. And literally, before I could even say anything, my wife says, we got to pray for him. I said, yes, baby, we do. Right? She goes, we got to anoint him with oil. I said, yes, baby, we do. I said, yes, we do. And she like, I'm not even speaking. I was like, who's the leader in this relationship here? Like, and I just began to tell her, I said, we got to get him to the place where he understands who God is in his life. Even as a 5-year-old son, because right now this is the most crucial time. And I believe that this is why adults are struggling with the things that we're struggling, because as youth, as little kids, nobody ever taught you this. Some of y'all, nobody ever taught you how to be a man. Some of y'all, maybe nobody ever taught you how to be a father because you never saw a father figure in your home. Ladies, some of you don't know how to be a lady who knows her self-worth and knows how to respect herself, so you allow every man to trample and come in. But I'm telling you, stewardship over yourself is leadership in God's economy. And so we feel like we're missing out in life because we don't have this or we don't have that. And we see everybody else enjoying companionship. We see everybody else enjoying Christmas. We see them with their nice ride. We see them with their family and their kids, and they're always smiling. But you don't know their story. We haven't been given what they've been given. You've been given only what you have in your home. Whatever is under your roof, that's what God has entrusted you with. That's what God has given you. It's not looking sideways and trying to compare who you are and what you have with everybody else, because you'll end up suffering trying to keep up with everybody else. I said, you know what? I'm tired of trying to keep up with people. I'm tired of that. Oh, I did that for a season. That didn't work at all. At all. You ever tried a hairstyle that didn't work for you? You felt like you were missing out. You felt like you were missing out. You were missing out on your hairstyle. You get what I'm saying? It's like, you ever tried a hairstyle that just didn't work? I remember trying that one time. I know it's hard to imagine it right now, but I just remember, like, one time I tried this crazy like hairdo that everybody was doing, and I said, I'm going to try this. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Because, I figured, hey, you know what everybody else is doing? Let me just try it. I tried it. And somebody came up to me and says, Rick, what'd you do to your hair? I was like, I don't know. I was just trying something different. They said, no, don't do that. And I believe sometimes people just got to be honest. See, because you'll never take ownership of what God has given you, because you're trying to take ownership of something else that somebody else has that wasn't fit for you. See, I also want to say this, and I don't mean to offend anybody. We got a lot of people saying, God's blessed me with this. Oh, God allowed me to do this. There's some things that people do in God's name, and it's not even God. It's not even in God's name. It's not even biblical. It's not even true. And people saying, God has called me to do this. Listen, if you don't have his heart, don't use his name. If you don't have his heart, don't use his name. Because we're making God out to be a mockery. And we're abusing the very name of God. Also, by the way, we can't vote him out. We can't vote him out of the church. We can't vote him out of the United States. And the reason I say that is because many of us, and I think of this, I think of our economy right now and the shape that it is in. I think that many people are talking about, again, this Trump thing, this wall, the migrants, and all this, and I hear a lot of this in church, and like it really bothers me, because people won't even hang out with people because, you know, oh, you're Trump and I was Hillary, or you're Democrat and I'm Republican. I'm like, listen, I understand that you have to take your own personal side, but we need to have one side that we can all. There is a name given amongst man, only one name over the church, and that name is Jesus Christ. And listen, I don't know whose name we celebrate Christmas in. I don't know whose name you've been given. I don't know if it's just Santa Claus, and that's, I mean, if you want your kids to believe in Santa Claus, listen, I'm not going to ruin your party, okay? I'm really not. But what I'm saying is this, let's not educate our children, and let's not teach them something other than Christmas. And the true definition of Christmas, it was about what God gave. It was about what he gave. And right now, we make it seem it's about just receiving and getting and accumulating and getting more and getting more. And God says, no, it was about me wanting to give to you. Give to you Jesus, the gift of grace, the purpose for which life finds its meaning. See, many of us get to this point. Deuteronomy 8:17, just like the Israelites said in the desert, my power and my strength and my hands have produced this wealth for me. My power, my hands, my strength has produced. Don't get to that point. You'll get to the point where you say, oh, it was on me. Look at me. Look where I'm at now. No. Listen to what verse 18 says. But Deuteronomy 8:18 says, it counsels us to think otherwise. Remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce or to gain wealth. It is God who gives you the ability to produce or to gain that wealth. It's God doing the work. It's the one who gives you the opportunity and puts it before you and says, okay, what will you do with it today? What will you do with what you've been entrusted with today? I'm giving you the ability to gain wealth. What will you do with it today? Point number 2, it's responsibility. Responsibility. Although God gives us all things richly to enjoy, nothing is ours. Nothing really belongs to us. God owns everything. We're responsible for how we treat it and what we do with it. While we complain about our rights here on earth, the Bible constantly asks, what about your responsibilities? Here's why. Owners have rights. Stewards have responsibilities. Owners have rights. Stewards have responsibilities. So God's really the only one who has a say-so into what happens with what he's given you in the first place. What God is looking for you, from you, is how you're going to respond to what he's entrusted to you in the first place. He wants to see how you're going to respond in that marriage, in that situation. How are you going to respond in that situation with your children? How are you going to respond with the world's economy? How are you going to respond to what you've been entrusted with? See, God doesn't ask for anything. He doesn't have to ask for anything because everything already belongs to him in the first place. But he demands everything. He demands, or he requires everything from us. And so he's asking, what is going to be your response today? Meaning this, let's say God just blesses you with a job that's making 6 figures. I know we're all waiting for that day. I know. But what if God does bless you with that, making 6 figures? What is going to be your response to that? Is it going to be, thank you, God, but you never ever are, you're never faithful with it? Or what about this? God, if you do this, I promise you I'll do that. Anybody ever said that? God, if you heal this relationship, God, you know I'll be in church every Sunday. We'll be like Medea. We'll go by the church. We'll go buy the church, right? And God is saying, listen, I just want to see how well you're going to be faithful. I just want to see how faithful. Here's why. Because if God's entrusted you with it and it belongs to Him as a manager, don't you believe you're going to have to give an account for it eventually? See, here's the truth. We're going to give an account. I'm going to have to give an account as a father. I'm going to have to give an account as a husband of how well I led my wife, how well I led my children. I'm going to have to give an account of this church, how well I led this church. We're all going to have to give an account. Because to whom much is given, much is required. And God says it's your responsibility. There's a difference. Owners have rights, stewards have responsibilities. Progress doesn't always mean expansion. Progress doesn't always mean expansion. Sometimes it's the inside that needs development. Many of us think, well, man, I'm getting some progress. That means I got to go and do more. I got to go and be. And God says, no. You need to develop what's going on the inside. Just because you made a little progress, just because you worked, because some things are working out, doesn't mean, just because you got a little bit more money in your bank account, doesn't mean you go out and spend it right away. No. We got to work on the inside. On the inside. And God says, listen, you were faithful in that season. Will you be just as faithful or even more faithful in this season that I've given you more? And if you will, imagine if I did that much, how much more will I not give to you if you continue to remain faithful with me? Because when I stay connected to the source and I know exactly where God, the owner, the authority, I know exactly where He wants it. He's a shot caller, y'all. He is. I know exactly where He wants me to put it. I know exactly where He wants me to go with it. I know exactly how to lead my family when I stay connected to the source. How do I stay connected to the source? I stay in His Word. I stay in His Word. Some of us are praying, God, give me a word. God says, I've already given you my word. 66 love letters. Get in the Bible. Some of us, and I understand, some of y'all didn't go to church, but it's an old little children's song. It goes like this. The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. See, some of y'all maybe didn't grow up with that, but it's a catchy little song as a kid. Right? It is. But why is it the book for me? Somebody says, Pastor, you know what Bible stands for, right? I said, no, what's it stand for? He says, it's basic instructions before leaving earth. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. But listen, if I want to know exactly how to steward, if I want to know exactly what God has for me, I don't need to go pray for 5 hours. You can if you want to. You can. Some of y'all probably fall asleep after half an hour. But if you want to hear a clear word from God, if you want to know the direction that God has for your life, you need to get in His Word. Because by getting in His Word, you'll find the general will of God. You'll find His general. There are some things that He does not change. There's some things that God does not change. I'm going to say something, and if it offends you, again, take it up with the owner. Don't take it up with me. I'm just preaching His Word. Here, there are some things that God is very clear about. And see, there's this law, or it's the principle of first mention, that when God mentions something in the Bible, from Genesis, in chronological order, when God first mentioned something, unless He changed it, it will always remain the same. That's called the law or the principle of first mention. Okay? So when God, the oldest thing that He ever gave to man, the oldest promise that He ever gave to man, does anybody know? It's marriage. Okay? Marriage was the first thing that He gave to man. The first thing. So this is the thing that He mentions in the Bible. He mentions it literally in the book of Genesis in chapters 1, 2, and 3. He mentions about marriage. But if you look at the entire Bible, you'll find that when God mentioned marriage, He never mentioned it and changed it ever again. Never, ever changed it. So, because He mentioned marriage, as it was instituted between a man and a woman, he never changed it. Had he changed it, then you could do whatever you wanted to do. Okay? But now I'm finding that there are a lot of believers. Y'all got an issue with this. There are a lot of believers who are saying, hey, it's okay to do what you want to do, and as long as it makes you happy. Hold up. Who am I trying to please? Who are you trying to please? As long as it makes who happy? As long as it makes you happy. So many believers are okay with making you happy as long as you're going to hell. I got an issue with that. I don't want you to feel comfortable about the very things that the world is telling you when God says, no, this is what it is. This is what I have instituted in my word. And I want you to have life and life in abundance, but you're only going to get it if you know what my words are telling you. And so many people are falling for false lies, and we're believing this false narrative that as long as you're happy, it's going to be okay. And so nowhere in the Bible, but when we talk about law and grace, the Old Testament talks about following the law, but then God changes it at Calvary when Jesus died on the cross, and then grace was introduced to us. And so I want to get your mind thinking that there are some things that God is very specific about. For example, marriage according to God's word. Again, and I'm not a judge at all. I'm just sharing what God's word says. Marriage was between a husband and a wife, a man and a woman. That's what marriage is, according to God's system, according to God's government. And in the world, we're trying to change the definition. That's why I'm telling you, you cannot vote God out of the church. And so we have many people going to church who think it's okay to follow how you feel. And it's leading people to a death rate, a suicide rate that is so sky high that we're saying, well, as long as they were happy, that's all that. No. I'm killing you if I'm not telling you the truth. You are missing out if I'm not telling you the truth. The one thing you do not want to miss out on is God's eternal kingdom that He has for you. That is the one thing that you do not want to miss out on. And God has given us a responsibility of having dominion and authority in this world. But who? His children. His children. God has given us dominion and authority. See, you must be willing to do things today that others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. You must be willing to do the things today others won't do. There's some people who say, man, I just need a car, but they won't get a job. They're asking, man, I wish Obama was still in there. Still get me a phone. Man, give me an Obama phone. Man, I wish Obama was in the White House. Man, I'd still be on Obamacare. I'm like, you messing with you messing with my taxes. I already paid too much, right? But you must be willing to do some things that others won't do today for your family. There are some things that God has pressed on your heart that God says, I want you to do. You're not going to miss out. You're not going to miss out. You're not. God's saying you're not going to miss out. Matter of fact, what's in front of you is greater than what's before you right now. What is in front of you, what God has there is so much greater, and you're not going to miss out. But will you be faithful right now in the middle? Will you be faithful? Will you continue to be constant? Will you keep your eyes fixed on me, the author and perfecter of my faith? I feel the reason why we give up and our knees start buckling is because we've taken our eyes off Jesus Himself. The Bible says, keep your eyes fixed on Him, the author and perfecter of your faith. Number 2, FOMO. You need to learn to control your emotions. Yes, some of y'all's emotions are everywhere. I'm not going to call out a specific gender, but some of y'all's emotions are everywhere. And some of y'all be giving us mixed signals. Because I don't know how to interpret certain signals. Okay? I really don't. Like when a guy says, I got game, what's that mean? right? Oh, I got game. I know how to pick up this girl. Like, that don't work on everybody. That just happened to work on that chick, you know? But you have to learn to control your emotions, because what will happen is we'll move into something, and God says, no, you're not stewarding right. You're about to get out of my will. You're not doing right. And so we'll jump into something, and God never gave us the green light on. God never gave us the green light. Y'all being awfully quiet today. God wants you to learn to control your emotions. Some of y'all are impulsive buyers. You buy it, but then you're ready to take it back, and you regret it. Why did I buy that? Why did I do that? And then this is what causes a lot of relational tension. A lot of relational tension. I thought it was okay to buy this. You gave me the go-ahead. No. No, see, when a woman says, I don't care. Yo, that's a lie. You need to learn to interpret that correctly. Like when she says, I don't care, and she gives you the attitude, and she doesn't even give you any more specifics on that, that means she cares. And that if you do it, she's going to be very, very upset at you. That she's going to be mad at you. And it affects what you guys have, because you're not stewarding right. And you know what I've learned about women? I love how God uses, like every woman has this, right? See, the world calls it intuition. I don't think I gave women something that he didn't give us. But the world calls it, secular world calls it intuition. I call it the Holy Spirit. God will speak to a woman so amazing. I'm just like, wow. Some of you ladies have made impulsive decisions, not just purchases, but decisions that you knew inside were not right. And instead of going with the right decision, you did something that you knew, now I can, if I back out now, it's going to be too hard. And I feel like I'm going to miss out. And God says, no. As long as God has not came back yet, there's still an opportunity. There is still grace. The moment Jesus comes back, I don't know if that's going to be available. The Bible doesn't specifically tell us that when Jesus comes back and raptures a church, it doesn't specifically tell us if that grace is still going to be available. But right now, He's still made that available. And so some of us have made some of you have made impulsive decisions. So the key to this is you have to make discipline a major factor in your life. Make discipline, and this is a word that many of us don't like, because we feel like discipline is only in regards to children and not to adults. But the Bible talks about that unless you have faith like a child, you cannot inherit. And I'm thinking about that unless we have faith unless we think the same way a child thought. And I'm not saying immature thinking, but I'm telling you, a child will believe the impossible. I was watching Charlotte's Web yesterday. Not because I wanted to, but because my wife put it on for the kids. So I was watching Charlotte's Web, but it was the actual real movie. And I thought it was really, really cool. There was this young girl who in the movie loved what's his name? Wilbur? Taking y'all back to y'all's childhood memories right now. There was this little girl who, at the beginning of the movie, her father was going to kill Wilbur, because Wilbur, he wasn't a fighter, right? All the other piglets were drinking milk, but Wilbur was the odd one out, and so he's like, okay. And so when y'all think of pigs right now, some of y'all are so horrible, you're thinking of bacon and pork chops and all that. But in this little girl's mind, she thought it was a life. she looked at it as an animal, and so she didn't want her father to kill it. So she takes it and begins to nurture Wilbur. Actually, she gives him that name, and so she ends up giving her family ends up giving the pig away because they didn't have enough room to watch over him. And so Mr. Zuckerman's farm was right near, and so she every day she told Wilbur, she made the promise to Wilbur. She says, I'm going to be here every day. She goes, matter of fact, you're going to get tired of watching me. And so her mom would watch the little girl always go to the farm. And she would talk to the animals, and she would make pictures and draw. And the mom got so frustrated. She's like, something's wrong with my child. She began to say, something's wrong with my child. And so the mom goes to a doctor. And she tells the doctor, listen, is there anything that you could do or anything that we could give my daughter to get her out of this mentality? Because she's talking to animals and she's constantly drawing pictures of them. And the man looks at the mom and says, he says, yeah, she has something. He says, but I don't think it's what you think it is. He goes, what we call that is childhood. We call that being a child. I want to talk to some of you parents really quickly before we close. Some of us will snap on our kids at the spill of a cup of water. We'll snap. Listen, I'm preaching to myself this morning. I'm preaching. We'll snap at them. We'll get mad at them. And we expect them to act like adults. But the thing that sets them apart is their childhood. It's their faith. And it is your responsibility. God has given you the responsibility of rearing and raising and loving those children. Because one day, they're going to transfer from childhood into an adult. And you're never, ever going to realize it. You're going to miss that. You're going to miss those moments. And so, just like your children, with everything else, God says, will you raise it? Will you take care of it? Will you take care of it? Tend to it in its infancy. In its infancy. It won't always remain there. Will you tend to it in its infancy and watch what I'll do with it? Watch where I'll take you. And some of us will leave this and we'll go out and we'll pick up something else and we'll focus on something else. And God says, what about this? This is what I gave you. This is what I deposited. The Bible talks about a good deposit. In the book of Ephesians, it talks about a good deposit. God wants you to steward well what's been entrusted to you. Maybe it's not working well right now. Maybe it's not working well because it's still in its infancy. Because I learned this is that there's always two people who are learning when you're raising a child. There's always two people that are learning. You're trying to get it right. You're trying to teach it right. And they're trying to receive it. And the same way they kick back is the same way you kick back at them. And God is saying, it's the same thing in His kingdom. That as you work with Him, God will work with you and He'll see you through the process. So allow faith to overcome my obstacles, my opposition. Don't fear that you're missing out. When God says, no, stay clued in with what I've given you. Stay focused on what I've given you. So make discipline a major force in your life And the last one. The last one. We have to make it okay to fail. We have to make it okay to fail. How many of you have failed before? How many of you have failed? Raise hands, raise hands, raise hands. I want to see them. I want to see them. How many of you got little children still in the house? Little children. Let them fail. Let them fail. Don't get mad at them. Don't always go to the belt and to the shoe and the chancla and everything. I like, no. No. Here's why. Because you weren't that good your first time. You weren't that good. And so you had to learn. Some of y'all learned through tears. Some of y'all learned on your knees praying. Some of y'all learned after you messed it up so many times you didn't have enough fingers to count. And God showed you grace. God showed you grace. The greatest thing that you could ever give your child is love them. And loving them doesn't only mean that you show an emotion. Loving them that means that you participate with them. When they want to go play hide and go seek, go play with them. You're not too big. You're not too old. When they want to play tag, when they want to play tag, stop feeling like you're too grown. Listen, those bills are going to add up. They're going to keep coming every day. Those bills will stay there till you die. You cannot miss out on the few years that you've been given. You cannot miss out. And the reason I say that is because some of you weren't even given that opportunity. Some of you weren't given the opportunity of having mom and dad in the house. Dad was always busy working. Mom was busy always taking care of certain things. Maybe they weren't even there, but you've been given the opportunity. And so you can set the standard. You can say, no, I'm going to be different. People may look at me funny. It doesn't matter. At least when they're old, they're going to realize that I invested in them. Not by dollars, not by what I gave them. No, they're going to realize if there's one thing that my kids, if there's one thing that your children should always know is that mom and dad were always there. And some of you don't even have that opportunity right now. And some of you have to play dual roles. But I commend every single mom and every single dad in this place. But you can do better. You can do better. But you can only do better if you can be better. So I'm going to challenge you. I want everybody to look at me. Especially every parent. I'm going to challenge you. Make this Christmas season, make it memorable. Make it memorable. I don't mean by the gifts. Purchase what you can afford, but make it memorable. Man, when they want to build those gingerbread houses, go purchase some. I'm telling you, $5 gingerbread house. Let them decorate it. I went out and bought a tree. That thing was not decorated. It took 3 days to decorate that tree. It did. It took 3 days to decorate it. I seen my niece, my 2 boys, and grandma decorating it. I watched as I sat back and I'm just looking at it. I'm just sitting back and I'm just watching them decorate the tree. I'm just watching them, putting up the ornaments. And my little baby girl, Emery's watching them, just watching them, looking at them. My little son, my 5-year-old son, he's in his underwear and just hanging the tree lights. And you know when kids do it, as a parent, you back up and you're just looking at it. I'm just observing the tree. I'm like, yo, there's a lot of ornaments up on that right corner right now that there's a bald spot down here, right? I'm looking at it, and we're just letting them hang them. They're just going crazy. And then I see Grandma goes, no, look, Elisha, put it down here. Noah, put it over here. Jordan, put it over here. Just watch him do it all. And I just celebrated with him. I just celebrated. It was just, it's those things that matter. It's those things that matter. I know you don't let them eat candy all the time, but shoot, let them get a candy cane one time, right? Let them choose. It might be the ugliest, like the worst cake in the world. Like, just let them choose it just one time. Next time some of y'all, your kids won't even ask you to play hide and go seek because they already know you're going to say no. They already know. Don't be that parent. Don't be that parent. People, y'all, I'm running around the whole house like I feel like I'm in the army now when I do it. I really do. Like I'm hiding behind bushes. I'm like on the ground, like planted, like just laid out. I'm like a kid, and now they gotten to the point where they say, Daddy, I don't want to play unless you play with us. I'm like, man, that makes me feel so good. Like there's it's like just like this inflammation in my spirit and in my heart that just, wow. I said, and I just look and I said, man, I know I ain't got much. Not monetarily. But man, I look at my family and I said, wow, God, thank you. I messed it up too, y'all. Me and my wife, we get in arguments like all the time. I mess it up too. I got to own up to it when I'm wrong. Right? Like it hurts. It hurts. Because I mean, as a man, I don't want to feel like I ever gotten it wrong. But I mean, I tell her. Last night, like I was upset because she says I take too long fixing my beard. I know I went got a little long-winded this morning, but I want to share this. Right? Because I went out and I bought some shampoo for my beard. Letting y'all into Ricky's life. I bought some balm for my beard. And I bought some oils for my beard. And then I bought this brush and this comb for my beard. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That's when you know it gets real. So, I nurture my face more than I do my head, more than I did my head when I did have hair. Right? So, if you ain't got a beard, you won't understand this, okay? You're still in infancy stage, okay? You're still in infancy. So, I went out and I got this balm, and we had to go to the parade last night. And I'll finish with this. I had to go to the parade last night. My family, my son was going to be in it. My niece was in the parade as well, and we're rushing, and she was getting the baby ready. She was getting Elisha ready. She didn't have enough time to get herself ready, and here I am working on my beard while she's doing all this. Like, women are amazing. Women, I vouch for y'all. Y'all are amazing. And here my wife, but then she just like, she turned into this other person. And she's strong. And so she has this cleric temperament. Cleric. She's just snappy, right? And so she goes, I can't believe it took you that long to do your face. It's like, okay. So she got upset. And I remember getting back home and I was like, I said, I'm sorry. Like, I apologize. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I realize everything you do. I said, I'm so thankful. I said, thank you for everything. And her response was, what are you sorry for? She wanted to know specifically what I was sorry for. I was like, y'all know how to speak in code at other times, but now you want like the real deal? And just like I gave her an answer, I was like, I'm sorry for all of it. That's all, like, I'm sorry for all of it.
like literally, I'm sorry like for all of it. Like since we got together, I'm sorry for like every mess up. And I just looked at her and said, I love you. And she reminded me, not by words, but just her demeanor, her love, her acceptance of me. She reminded me why it is a privilege and an honor to be married to her and to be gifted with 3 amazing little kids. Because I don't know what I do like without them. And I sit here and I look at many of y'all, and I've gotten relationships with many of you, and I don't know what I do without y'all. And I just want to steward well what God has given me. And there are some things that just don't work sometimes. But even when it's not working well, I still want to steward well. I'm not where I want to be, but I still want to steward well. I don't have some of the things that I promised my wife when we first got married, but I still want to steward well. Because there are some things that I promised her that I know at this point I don't see them, and she doesn't see them. But the same way God made me a promise is the same way I've given her my promise. That even when it's not working, even when I'm not working, because sometimes I'm not working, y'all, I still want to steward well. Will you stand to your feet this morning?